Forgiveness is a gift that you give yourself. But it's not just about forgiving others. It's really about forgiving yourself. Okay, you did things. Okay, you said things. And it was hurtful for other people. But you know what? It's time to let that go. Let's chat about it.
Check it out.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. It is a new year. Happy New Year. I am excited. This is a year we are going to start this right. And in order to start this right, we have got to start with ourselves. So I hope that you guys' holiday was well. And here we are. It's time to go. Hit the ground running. And it's time to put yourself as a priority. This is something that isn't just for this new year. It's something that I will always tell you is to put yourself as a priority. You've got to put yourself as a priority over everybody else, over your family, over your friends, over everyone. This does not mean that you are better than them. This does not mean that you do not care. This does not mean that you are neglecting anybody. You cannot be there for anybody until you are there for yourself. You have to take time out for yourself. Now, if you're new to that, well, guess what's going to happen? People aren't going to like it. They are not going to like it one bit. But if you continue the cycle of how it's going, then it's going to remain that way. So until you change it, nothing's going to change. So this is what we're going to talk about today, and that is self-forgiveness. Listen, we can talk about forgiving other people, and I'm writing a whole chapter on forgiveness in my book. It's so important. I know it's debatable on, you don't have to forgive people. Oh, it's good to forgive people. I can tell you what works for me and what works for my clients, because forgiveness is really a gift that you are giving yourself. So that's when I'm talking about other people, but especially about you. Over on Patreon, I did in my mind, I did a good worksheet that's going to give you prompts. It's going to help you really expand on what we're talking about today. And if that is something that you're interested in and you want to take this podcast to the next level, just remember I do them once a week. They complement this podcast. So you'll get for a month. Hop over to Patreon, patreon.com/the positivity experience, if in fact you're ready to do this worksheet. I am so excited for this because it took me a long time on my healing process to get to this point. Because, you do things and it depends on how you grew up, but at any given time, somebody is going to do something that hurts somebody else. Or you make a decision and you're like, oh my God, that was totally disastrous. And then you lament on this over and over and over again. Play it out. I wish I'd have done this differently. Why did I do this? I'm this horrible person. These are the narratives that you start telling yourself. And it leads into this weird sense of sabotage, because this is a huge part of self-forgiveness. If you don't do this, you will self-sabotage. I mean, that's just psychologically proven. Because you go through this time period of, oh, you're a horrible person. You should bully yourself into being a better person. And you were so bad and you were so wrong that you got to stay over here. And that is a horrible, horrible way to live. Listen, you are going to, maybe even still in the future, you might inadvertently hurt somebody. You might inadvertently make a decision that is not the best decision. So holding on to that, I want you to ask yourself, how is this benefiting me? Really think about that. If you have not forgiven yourself for something right now, anything, don't care what it is, how's that helping you? How is it helping you to sit there and drive yourself into the ground about what a horrible person you are? Because you're doing it and you're trying to prove some point, and you're telling yourself, if I bully you, you will be a better person. If I bully you, you will have to pay for all of this stuff. Babe, that is not helpful for you. There's no growth there. And unfortunately, listen, we make decisions, we make choices in situations and times where we have to survive. We don't have the tools that we have now. Very often, you're looking at something today and you're going in the back, like in reverse, right? You're going backwards. In reverse, you're looking in the past and going, well, what an idiot am I? Okay, but you don't get to do that because you're looking at yourself through the lens of the stuff that you know today. And guess what? You can listen to this podcast 5 years from now, 2 years from now, and there's going to be something that you're going, oh man, that was stupid. Why'd I do that? And I don't mean picking the wrong restaurant. I'm talking about something deeper. And sometimes it is really deep, really deep. But if you carry this, you cannot find inner peace. There's no scenario where you keep beating yourself up, you keep bullying yourself about what a horrible human being you are. And then you go, but yet I want peace. There's also no scenario where that happens and you don't go into people-pleasing mode. Because you're going to be like, I'm a horrible person. I got to make up for this for the rest of my life. No. And there's science behind this because of your brain and how the brain works. But let me tell you why it is mandatory, not selective, not, oh, this is cute, mandatory to take this weight of the guilt off of you. Because if you don't, you will not only have a mental sort of break, right? Where you're sitting there and you're like, well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm feeling stuck. But that can physically, all the stress, all the guilt, all the cortisol can create physical problems for you. And no, you don't deserve it. I can just hear some of your brains right now going, well, it is what it is because I'm this horrible person. No, we're not going to do that. You need to pattern interrupt that this moment in time. Because while guilt can be mildly beneficial of going, ooh, man, okay, I need to change that guilt into, in that regret into a lesson. That's okay. Because then you're like, ooh, that was a little prickly. I don't really like that. Okay, I'm going to change that going forward. That's fine. Because that's human brain mechanism. It becomes very problematic when that is a prolonged situation because it keeps you emotionally stuck in the past, and it's you're unable to focus forward. You're unable to focus in the present space. Living in the past, I have so much information on this, and while I'm thinking about it, I'm doing like a free, I want to call it a workbook. It's not a workbook, but I'm doing a free sort of 10-page thing to help you let go. Absolutely free. I'm going to put my podcast link it's always there, but my podcast link in the show notes here, if you want to get on the mailing list so I can just send this free thing to you when it comes out because it's done. I just have to release it. I think I'm going to release it in conjunction with the podcast that's coming up later this month, but it's going to help you as far as understanding the letting go thing. And this is important because not only do you have to let things go from other people, you got to let things go for yourself, right? And if you do not do that, you are going to create a problem. And living in the past, you're not changing the past. Okay, you could have done something different. You didn't. Okay, they could have done something different. They didn't. I don't care how many times you play a scenario over in your head on how it would have been better. There is zero proof that it would have been better. It would have been different. But guess what? It doesn't matter. It is what it is, and it's not changing. You will not change the past. I don't care how much you lament on it. You can take it and go, okay, what did I learn from it and how can I implement it? Well, that's great. But you have to understand there is a science behind forgiveness. It's not just some cute, fluffy words that people use. Because guilt activates, right? So think of how your body works, especially the obsessive thinking. So obsessive thinking can be a big part of obsessive compulsive disorder. Always recommended that if you're obsessing on something, and I don't mean like, oh, you have this interview coming up and you're worried about it. No, I'm talking about where you get on that loop and that merry-go-round just keeps going and going and going. And then you jump from that merry-go-round to another merry-go-round. Then you definitely want to talk to your doctor about a possible screening for OCD because it's a big piece of that. But when your brain is doing that, it's creating all of these things and it's preventing you from problem solving. It's preventing you from decision making, and you're increasing your emotional, or you're decreasing your emotional resilience. Because when you're emotionally resilient, you feel the feelings, you process the feelings, you realize that they're not facts. You look and you say, is this something that I can change? Is this something that I need to learn from? And then you move forward. You don't sit there and lament and hold on to it. Because you will not have that resilience. You will sit there and your emotional regulation will go out the window, but your forgiveness lowers stress. It really does. Think about, okay, let's put this in like real play. And we're going to do this. I didn't even think about it. We're going to do this on the fly. You care, let's see, you are thinking about something that you did that was quote unquote stupid for the day. Oh, I said this, I did this, I said this, I did this. And I mean, you are like, oh my God, you're thinking about it for days on end. You're like, that's so stupid. I can't believe I did that. Over a period of time, even if you're obsessing on it, over a period of time, eventually that time, it might cross your mind, even in obsessive, because your obsessive brain goes from one topic to another. So you might go back to it and visit it, but it starts to get less and less. Well, you stop carrying it as much. So okay, well, I can breathe a little bit deeper, right? You kind of, because time does heal a lot of things if you let it. It might be a little bit longer, but think about how light you feel. Even if you know it's there, it's passed away a little bit further down the road, you start feeling a little lighter. Why would you not give that to yourself? Why would you not want to feel? Don't tell me I want to feel peace. Do not tell me or yourself, I want to feel peace. I just want to be content. If you want to do that, then you're going to have to start with yourself. I don't care what you want. I don't care what you want. How the hell are you going to get there? I would like to have my house paid off tomorrow. How the hell am I going to get there? It's not going to happen tomorrow. Hopefully I can get it done. Well, I better work towards it. It's the same thing for yourself. So if you're chasing peace, you're chasing contentment, you're chasing alignment, you're chasing connection, you got to start with the foundation of yourself. It has to start with you. And yes, you screwed things up in the past. And what? And here we are. So what? And this will help you because the stress response in your body when you are in guilt, because that creates anxiety, that creates overthinking. Now you're stressing. Now you're feeling it. Now all of these little things are going on in your brain. It's disrupting your decision making. As you are forgiving yourself, you're letting that go. In turn, okay, think of it like this. Let's think of a dial, like a radio dial in your car. And you turn it all the way up. You're like, oh my God, it's so loud. Like, it depends. If you're going out, it might be great. But it's so loud and you're like, there's so much happening and this noise is loud. But if you take the dial and you turn it down some, it's still there, but it's less and less. And you keep turning it down and you keep turning it down and you keep turning it down. And then the noise becomes less. That's what happens with forgiveness. Because I don't care how many times you want to beat yourself up, things are done. So are you going to give your inner child that gift? Because guess what you're doing? You are literally neglecting yourself, your little child self. Your inner child, you're putting your inner child in a corner. You are basically neglecting that inner child and you're bullying that little child. So I want you to visualize that for a minute. Look at yourself, but look at yourself at, I don't know, let's say 8 to 10. Look at yourself then. And I want you to go ahead and talk to that person, that little person, the exact same way that you're beating yourself up. Look at them. Visualize yourself sitting there. And I want you to berate them as much as you berate yourself. I want you to talk to them the same way you talk to yourself and tell me how that feels. That feel okay? Would you do that? Would you literally say, you're an idiot, you stupid fool. You deserve nothing. Would you say that to yourself? I'm going to guess a lot of you said no. I'm going to guess maybe all of you said no. Then why is it okay to do it to yourself? Why? Oh, well, I'm an adult now. Don't sit there and make bullshit excuses because you're going to make bullshit excuses. But guess what? I don't care how you spin it. I don't care the shit that you've done. You are still talking to that child like a dog. And hopefully you're not even talking to dogs like that. So if that's okay with you, then go ahead and keep up with that narrative. Or let's take the same scenario. Little child there. Child is like, oh my God, I'm so sorry I broke the dish, right? Because at that age, you're not going to make so many mistakes. And they're crying and they're upset and they feel so bad about themselves. Are you going to keep yelling at them because of this dish? Or are you going to go, listen, it's okay. Like next time, let's work on not setting it on the edge of the counter. But you're going to be a little bit more empathetic and you're going to probably forgive that person for breaking your dish. Even if it was your grandmother's dish, even if it was your favorite dish, you're going to eventually, you're going to be like, oh, it's okay. Then why can't you give yourself the same grace? And I don't care if it's just as simple as breaking a plate. Maybe you stepped out on a marriage. Maybe you said something. Maybe you were in a bad space of addiction and you were stealing money from your grandmother who really didn't have a lot. Was it a crappy thing to do? Sure. It's not permissing your actions. You're not permissing it. You are taking a, yes, this is what I did. Yes, in addiction, I stole money from my grandmother, or whatever the scenario is. And you say to yourself, are you going to keep beating yourself up, or are you going to better yourself in the choices and decisions that you make? Well, I think that that's something that you have to ask yourself if you're worthy of that. And if you say that you're not worthy of it, then you need to book a session with me ASAP. Get off here immediately, go to my website, book something, and we need to address this immediately. Because you deserve good things. You deserve peace. You deserve to be on this planet. You deserve forgiveness from yourself. I don't care about anybody else right now. I don't care if they, listen, people are going to hold grudges, and that's the worst thing that a person can do. So if you're holding a grudge, that is bad for you. You holding a grudge, you're not giving yourself some gift. You're doing the opposite of that. And that's with other people. So imagine what it's like with yourself. Because you're going to create self-sabotage. Without forgiveness, enter self-sabotage. Because that's where you believe that you don't deserve good things. And guilt clouds that judgment. So then you keep repeating actually the same cycle of lamenting and beating yourself up. And again, going into people pleasing. Because now, not only does the trauma create it, and we talked about guilt multiple times, people pleasing multiple times, you are sitting there and you keep trying to make up for something for the rest of your life. Why are you doing that? Okay, if it's something that you feel the need to apologize for, do it one time. We don't need to go on an apology tour for the next 65 years. You don't owe someone your left arm because you did something that wasn't great. You are not benefiting yourself by doing this. And it's going to be unresolved shame, unresolved guilt. And guess what that turns into? Now it turns into defensiveness because you already feel some kind of way. So now, because you're insecure about what you did or said, it's going to create defensiveness because all it takes is some person to, I don't know, question you, or you think it's questioned and now you're defensive because you already feel like shit about doing it. And this creates problems. So not only does it affect you, now it starts affecting other people. You're beating yourself up doesn't just affect you. Now you're projecting that out into the world because, oh my gosh, I'm different now. Okay, but you don't get to be defensive. Yes, I would hope that most of us are different now. And I hope that most of us are different 5 years from now, 5 days from now, 6 months from now. But if you sit there and regret all of the things that you did and pretend like it never happened, like you're like, nope, I don't want to think about it, want to put it in the closet, I want to compartmentalize it, that's not benefiting you. You cannot 100% guarantee you cannot have self-love if you don't love your mistakes, you don't love your failure, you don't love your depression, you don't love your anxiety. You can't do that. You don't get to go into a self-love journey and pretend like shit back here didn't happen or keep beating yourself up for it. It happened. Own it. Take accountability. Yes, it did. And what? So now we go down the self-love journey. Now we say, wow, I did a lot of stuff in survival. Oh, if you're going to get my book when it comes out, you're going to see, you're going to be like, damn, she did all kinds of crazy shit. Yeah, I did. What am I going to do? I can't change it. And I actually embrace it. That's what builds confidence. That's what also keeps you from having to walk on eggshells around people because you're afraid that what you did is going to get exposed. Own it. Walk into it. Person can't use something against you that you were taking ownership of. Well, you did this. Yes, I did. Well, you did. Yes, I know. I said I did. Because you don't want someone to hold that over your head like blackmail, or in your mind, it's like blackmail. And then you're continuing that cycle of running from your past. You did it and you said it. Own it. And that's going to help you so much. It's going to help you walk into a new level of confidence because you're learning lessons. You are creating resilience when you forgive yourself. Why? Why would you not? Again, if you have to every single day, because now you're in a habit loop. Your habit loop of thinking negative, your habit loop of beating yourself up, your habit loop of being pessimistic. Every single time that happens, look at yourself as an 8-year-old child. Look at how you're talking. It's nobody else. You're not visualizing some strange person. That's you. Think about a time, let's say you had trauma, which, I mean, if you're listening to this, get pretty sure we've had trauma. Pretty sure everybody in the world has had trauma. And I want you to think how you felt when someone didn't show up for you, when someone dismissed you, when someone didn't even look like they cared. Think about that feeling for a minute. Think about that feeling. Okay, hold it. I know it sucks, doesn't it? Okay, now I want you to take that same feeling and I want you to throw it onto this child. Tell me how that feels for you. No. I'm not talking about what they could have done. I'm not talking about their actions. I'm talking about that feeling that was not created by you, that was created by someone else, that you've now adopted later on in life because you think, because I did this, and this, I am proven my dad, mom, teacher correct, that at 8 years old, they told me blah, blah, blah. Now I'm proving them right. So now you take those same words and you put that shit on this child. Stop doing that. Stop doing that because you deserve good things. That's right. You deserve, I don't care how shitty things are in the past. You deserve good things. Because let me tell you, people have this fear of taking accountability because they mistake forgiveness with permission. You got to take accountability. You did it, but I promise you that you deserve good things. I promise you that you deserve to embrace that child. So now we've given that. So now let's take that same child. Think about how you've been talking to that child. But now watch that child cry. Watch that child sit in a corner and cower and just be like, I don't want to talk to you. Please stop saying this to me. And I want you to get down on your hands and knees, sit on your butt, and I want you to put your arms around that child. And just let that child lean into you. Just let that child lean into you. That's you. And that's how you come for yourself. That's not about waiting for anybody else to save you because they're not going to do that. Stop doing that. But you let that child that you have berated and you let him, her, they lean into you. Put your arms around that child and let that child know that it's okay. I forgive you. I love you. And you know what? That child isn't going to believe you from rip. That child isn't going to be like, yay, I love this. That child's going to be like, oh, okay, this feels good, but I don't trust you. Don't think that your inner child is going to trust you from jump. They're not. Because you've proven over and over and over again that bullying yourself is somehow permissed. And you resisting to forgive yourself is somehow metal. Lean into that child. They don't want much. Your inner child doesn't want much. They just want you to be there for them. They just want you to hold them. But there you stand. Nope. I ain't going to do it. Why? This is what you deserve is love, a hug that you give yourself, no one else. Stop waiting for somebody else to give this to you. It is not about anybody else. It is about you. You have the power to heal yourself. You have the power to fix the things that you keep resisting. You have the power of that, but you have to allow it because you do deserve it. Don't let the voice of the unhealed people in your life that told you these things about you because they didn't know how to handle themselves and they were trying to control it and they were projecting on you. Do not let that dictate the level of value that you have. Because let me tell you, doing that, you're also going to hold yourself into perfectionism. And we know perfectionism's fake. I have a whole podcast on it. Go back and listen to it. But you will hold yourself to this standard to where you suddenly can't make mistakes again. So you're holding yourself to this impossible standard. And this is a problem because you keep chasing this perfection that doesn't exist. I want them to see. Why are we worried about what they are doing? They don't matter. They don't matter. You're so busy like, oh, let me prove myself and oh, look, I'm not that person anymore, that again, you're neglecting that inner child. So stop giving a shit about anybody else at this moment in time. It's not about them. It is about you, because you can't be good for anybody else. You can't forgive anybody else. You can't continue this self-love journey and think that it's a destination, because it's not a destination. It is an entire life journey. And that's what you deserve, is the joy of going forward and backwards, because the growth journey isn't one direction. Your growth journey is not one dimensional. It is, you're going to go forward. You're going to be like, wow, I'm really doing good. I'm cruising right along. And guess what? You're going to be like, ooh, I went back into some old behavior or some old thought patterns, this, that, and the third. Well, that's okay. You're supposed to. What good are tools if you're never in a position to use them? There's no scenario where you go straight forward. That's your perfectionism brain. That's your, well, I should know better. I know better. I'm not using the tools. Okay, stop doing that. Pretty sure if you go take up a foreign language, you're not just going to hit it out the park. You're going to mess it up. You're going to say it wrong. Your dialect is going to be wrong. And even if you know, hell, I speak the English language. I was born speaking the English language. I don't know. I speak that correctly. I definitely don't. We have weird rules in English. Things are spelt the same way and they're pronounced differently at times. Read. It's the same damn word. I'm going to misspell things. I'm going to put them in wrong places. And 53 years I've known the English language. So you got to remember that about yourself. There's no standard of perfectionism, and you have to acknowledge your mistakes without excuses. Don't go into a victim mindset. Well, I did do this, but I did this because, okay, you did it in survival. Hold that person's hand. Go back and look at why you did what you did and what you were going through in that moment in time, and look at yourself through compassionate eyes, empathetic eyes. You're not there to permiss it, by the way, because you did it. Was it shitty? Yeah, probably. Wrap your arm around that person because you deserve it. I'm always going to tell you through this entire podcast that you deserve good things, that you deserve happy things. You do, however, have to take accountability, and you have to do the work in self-forgiveness. And mistakes are an opportunity for growth. I cannot begin to tell you, you keep resisting failure. It is one of the best things that you can do. Your mistakes are some of the best things that you can do, because that is where you gain growth. That is what makes you resilient. And by the way, that's where you get confidence. There's no scenario where you get confidence and do the things. It's not real. You do the things, the confidence comes. You are going to hurt people in this world, and they are going to hurt you. Wrap your head around that right now. Wrap it around. It's not negative, it's factual. But if you're going through life trying so hard not to hurt people's feelings, you're not in your boundaries, you're not in your self-love journey, you're not in growth. Until you embrace being the villain or being rude or whatever in somebody else's story, you will always continue to beat that child. That's right. Oh, aggressive? Well, good. I'm glad. You feel some kind of way about it? I'm thrilled. Because that's not being dramatic. That's exactly what you're doing without forgiving yourself. I know. Seems like, woo, oh my gosh. Oh, it's a lot. Well, yeah, it is a lot. And that's what you're doing to yourself. And don't beat yourself up for not forgiving yourself, because there's that too. You'll be like, well, I don't know why I didn't do this before. And because you didn't have the tools. And even if you did have the tools, you're resisting it. And there's reasons that you're resisting it. And that's why you have to be careful of who you surround yourself with. My goodness. If someone is contributing to why you can't forgive yourself, or someone is, well, don't forget you did this to me when you were 18 and now here you're 62. Don't let someone's lack of letting something go create this scenario where you're this bad person and you don't deserve forgiveness. And quite frankly, if they can't, they don't have to. By the way, side note, they don't got to forgive you. But you don't got to sit there and keep trying to make them forgive you because you're this bad person. You're not a bad person. Stop saying that to yourself. You're not a bad person. Let me yell that from the rooftops. And let me say it again. You are not a bad person. We make poor choices. We make decisions that aren't all that great. Yeah, we do that. That's what being a human is. And this is something to also keep in mind when it does come to other people. We're all just, let me tell you, here's a little secret for you. We're all just winging life. Every single one of us. There's no roadmap to life. Let's say I post a short form video and it's on something with boundaries or self-love or ego or attachment. Let's say I'm talking about that. Somebody inadvertently will say, man, I wish I knew this 20 years ago. And my response to that is, so do I. I didn't know this. I didn't wake up this way. Are you kidding me? Quite the opposite. It's a period of time because we're not given the tools because a person can only give you the tools that they have to give. And that's the biggest thing, because now you got to look at attachment theory and why you go into certain levels of attachment. And again, a lot of it isn't just from the trauma of feeling neglected by somebody. That is a huge part of it. Not having a good childhood, not having situations where you felt safe. You're right. That is an absolute big piece of it. Fast forward ahead, you now adopt some of those words. So when you quote unquote prove them right, you're like, yep, I knew it. I can't forgive myself because this is who I am. Ooh, and that's another thing. Do not let your lack of self-forgiveness become an excuse as to why you are the way you are today. Well, look at how I grew up. Okay, well, you're here today. Are we going to keep living in the past? Are we going to keep surfing on the past? Are we going to keep using that as a reason to not move forward? Because you did not ask to be here in many, and when I say here, I don't mean on the planet. You did not ask to be in this trauma recovery. But it's important that you understand you are 100% responsible for it now. And what I say, I don't mean the trauma. I mean healing through it. So give yourself permission to take a minute. Give yourself permission to screw things up along the way because you didn't have a roadmap. And guess what? And I'm speaking from experience. I was pretty much on my own since 14. My dad was an alcoholic. There was a lot of inappropriateness going on there. He was in the bar all the time. I was in the bar. Back then it was like, oh, come sit on my lap. Yes, it's disgusting. Yes, it happened. And yes, it happened with many of the guys in the bar. And many things throughout life. Many things throughout my life. I did a lot of illegal stuff because I had to do what I had to do. I had to do what I had to do. I was running drugs, cocaine and weed and all of this stuff, making sure, not doing it because my brother and sister were addicts. And of course, I tried acid. I did acid once. I actually had a good trip, but I was like, I don't want to, this isn't me. I tried half a line of cocaine. Well, with my anxiety, that did not do me well at all. And weed, every now and again, I'll dabble in that still. That's fine. That is what it is. But I would do that. I did so many illegal things just to get by. And it is what it is. I'm not upset with myself because you know what? I had to do what I had to do. But what does that mean for me today? Well, what that means for me today is I can take ownership and I can show up for myself and I don't have to keep staying in that fight or flight response. I don't have to be in a survival skill. I don't, but I have those skills. See, that's the other thing. What did you learn from the situation? What did you learn not to beat yourself up? What did you gain? What knowledge did you gain from it? Because you learned something for it or you wouldn't feel sitting here with all this damn guilt. And not that you're a bad person. What did you learn? Did you learn that you want to do something differently in the future? What did you learn? Well, then guess what? That's the part you got to embrace. I'm telling you, I have so many skills now because of the things I did. And I'm using them to my advantage for myself. I'm a pretty decent business person because of it. I might not have learned that. Listen, some things you can't learn in college. Some things you cannot learn. Some things you got to learn from the school of hard knocks. So guess what? You will hurt some people on that way. You will hurt some people on that journey, even if you didn't grow up the way I grew up. But there's something, it's not a comparison, by the way. You don't compare your trauma to anybody else because your body and mind are going to feel it the same way, regardless of what you would consider a smaller amount of trauma. Your body is still going to store it the same way. So it doesn't need to become a competition with somebody's trauma or a competition because, oh, well, I see how you can forgive yourself, but you didn't do blank. So I can't forgive myself because mine's way worse. Why are we doing that? Stop going into comparison with that. That's ridiculous. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you have to give yourself that opportunity. You have to appreciate it. And then what is your action plan? That's your growth. What's your action plan? What action plan do you have? Because forgiveness isn't meant to release any kind of past, but it's to free you to act differently. Because if you're worrying about all of the stuff to apologize for, you actually can't find growth. Now you're just trying to please. I am worthy of forgiveness and growth. Got to remind yourself that. Repeat that. Put it on the mirror. Put that in the refrigerator. I am worthy of forgiveness and growth. Because you are. And no one can give you that forgiveness. Even if somebody said, I forgive you. Okay, what are you going to be like? Great. I feel so much better. Number one, you're not going to believe it. Number two, you're going to be like, oh, but you wouldn't have to forgive. Like, you're going to move the goalpost. You wouldn't have to forgive me if I didn't do this. These are the people who go on the sorry tour. Every time they see somebody, hey, man, I'm really sorry. Yes, okay. Well, okay. Oh, man. Later on, 3 weeks later, you're sitting there. Oh, man, I just want you to know how bad I feel. Okay, I thought we were through this. You continuously apologizing puts you in a victim mindset. That's right. Now it goes back to victim mentality. Now your reason to, I'm sorry, puts you in a victim mindset. Because now you tell yourself what a horrible person you are. And until you forgive yourself, you will have a very difficult time giving someone unconditional love, because that will become attachment. Your unconditional love that you say is unconditional becomes attachment, because guess what? Someone is quote unquote loving you. Someone is embracing you, even though you did all these horrible things. So you can't let that person go, because that person forgives you. I mean, doesn't forgive you. That person loves you in spite of everything that you did. And that's not a true statement, because you need forgiveness if you're going to allow yourself to move forward in life. But you deserve it. Because we worry so much about everybody neglecting us, but yet we turn around and we neglect ourselves 100 times worse than anybody could neglect us. And that's true. No one can talk to you or treat you any worse than how you treat yourself. I mean, that's just a fact. But guess what? You deserve good things. You deserve to smile. You deserve self-love. Because you can never love yourself until you embrace all of you, including those things that you're struggling to forgive yourself for. And I mean, that's just a fact. Your body needs it. Your mind and your body needs it, right? Because again, this isn't just about some woo-woo thing of like, oh, forgive yourself and good things will come. But that is a true statement. That is a true statement. Because if you're defining yourself by your mistakes, you are going to go into attachment. I want you to ask yourself this question. What belief am I holding on to about myself because of the mistake? Okay, let's repeat that again. Take a deep breath. Exhale. And maybe you even have to pause, get off here, and think about this. And that's okay. You don't need to respond to it right away. But keep this podcast on loop. Keep them all on loop if you need it. What belief am I holding about myself because of the mistake? And then ask yourself why you have that belief. And then say, because I have this belief, how is that benefiting me? What am I hoping by holding on to this belief? And I want you to take that little child. I want you to sit beside yourself. I want you to visualize yourself. I want you to, this is why inner child work, I do a lot of shadow work, inner child work. Go to a playground. Get on a swing. I don't care if you're 75 years old. Go to a playground. Get on a swing. Swing with your inner child. Let that inner child know that it's okay. You love her or him or they. You love them. Because we can do bad things, bad choices, and still be allowed to be loved. But I'm not talking about other people. I'm not talking about them loving you. I'm talking about you loving you. That's where the unconditional self-love comes from. So as we come to a close here, and again, we're going to continue this over on Patreon with a worksheet. I just want you to take a few things away from this to summarize this for you. You're going to do things that are going to hurt people. You're going to say things that are going to be out of line. You're going to make mistakes and you're going to have failures in your life. And guess what? You still deserve good things. You still deserve to look in the mirror and tell yourself, you know what? I love you anyway. I forgive you. Because I'm telling you right now, if you've ever wanted to feel that abundance of love, you cannot find that from another person. No one can give you that level of self-love that you can yourself. And not only do you deserve it, I want you to wrap your arms around yourself and literally do it right now. Put your arms around yourself and remind yourself, if you had to repeat it 100 times a day, I love you and I forgive.
Check it out.